Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're at. This is your favorite podcast, the Will and Al Know Nothing podcast. I'm Al, and Will is on sabbatical. Today, we have on the powerful David Tran. Powerful and wise, I should call him. David Tran. David's been a friend of mine for over 20 years. I know him from the real estate space, and we've also done some seminars together, participated in some transformational work, and just an overall good guy. I was at his wedding. That was fun. It was interesting to see him drink so much he turned purple like a beet. I've never seen that before. And just an awesome person. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Do I call you Al or do I call you?
Al, of course. So for those of you who don't know, I have first and a middle name, Al, as in Alberto or Albert, and middle name David. So a lot of times people don't know what to call me because it really depends on the context of the relationship I have with them. My mother always called me David for some reason. I think because that's the name she wanted to give me, but my dad wanted to give me the name Albert, so it's whatever. Anyway, if you say, hey, you, I'll respond to. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your story, your struggle, where you're at now?
First off, I just want to set an intention to myself about what this conversation is about, or going to be about. And that's, I think, I could talk about anything, but today I just want to talk about love and what that is to me. And I just want to share my perspective of that. So I just want to put that out there.
Sure.
And a little bit about myself. I'm born in Philadelphia. Growing up, my parents worked at the restaurant. They're still working in the restaurant. They're continuously working. I understand, I learned hard work from my father, and I learned what it took to sacrifice. And growing up, my mom is more the educated one, where my dad was just a hard worker. So my mom was always pushing me, like most Asian parents, to be the best. I was just never good enough. No matter what my grades were, it was always not straight A's. If I got straight A's, was I number one? It's just a typical Asian mentality. So my story probably resonates with everyone that have, foreign, immigrant moms. They just want you to be the best, and they would tell you to go to school. And my choices in life were, be an engineer, be a lawyer, or be a doctor, because that's what made money. It was always about money. So growing up, I was always curious, which got me in a lot of trouble. I hanged out with a lot of, a lot of different people, and I did everything that my parents told me not to do. And it wasn't because I was never aware that I was a bad kid until like 3-4 years ago. And so, what does that mean? That means that I was just being, and I was just living life, but I never reflected on it. I never really looked deeply at, I would say, oh, that's a bad kid. I wouldn't know how to say that, but I never asked the question, was I ever that? And when I looked at it, all the things that if your parents tell you to do something and you did the opposite, how would your parents view you? So I was never able to, I guess what I'm really good at is living my best life. I never paid attention to what people thought. I was just frustrated my whole life because I couldn't make friends the way I imagined it. And the way I imagined it came from watching Chinese kung fu movies where, everything was full of altruism, hero, like you got to be heroic, integrity. Yeah, now looking back, I realized that, wow, the type of television or the type of things that I watched really impacted me. And I was looking for that type of brotherhood, those type of friendships. And yeah, in real life, it's not normal, you know? So, you know, just coming out of it, when I went to college, I'm a computer engineer. Throughout my college life, I was able to go to Drexel. And I remember it's a fast-paced college. It's 3 semesters instead of 2. So I didn't go to a good high school. So, and I, in high school, I cut 60 days too. I didn't even go to school. And I still managed to get straight A's. I still was ranked top. I was number 11, I think, you know, not top 10, you know. So, I mean, that tells you how bad the school is pretty much, you know. It's like, how do you do that? That's not a good accomplishment. It was one of those schools that, man, if you made it, like if you even graduate, you made it, you know. So my college years, I would say, is my toughest years ever. I was behind. I was always behind. I didn't even understand, like I never understood things, because for me to understand things, I need to be able to apply it in my own life. So when I was learning calculus, algebra, trigonometry, I don't know how to apply that in real life. So I was always lost. And during college, I was always trying to understand. And I was always asked questions. Why? What is this? You know, what does this formula mean? Like, what does it really mean? Can you show me something physical? I can relate it. Everyone was just like, yeah, this is theory. But no one can actually show me. So I would never grasp it. And so in short, I cheated my way through college. I studied 7 days. I went to the library after school. I studied with my friends who I felt were the smartest people that I can find. They tried to teach me, but I tried to not like bother them because they were studying, and I would just listen. And yeah, I always had a backup plan. A backup plan is, you know what? I'm going to write down all these formulas. I'm going to write down everything, and I'm going to cheat if I have to. But that'll be a worst case scenario. I would hate cheating, because in high school, like I said, I got straight A's. It was very simple for me, and I grasped it. And when you remember a formula, you just repeat it. But in college, to be an engineer, you need to understand, you need to comprehend it. You got to create the formulas. It's about creation, taking something simple and creating something complex, stacking it. I didn't understand any of that stuff. And so it was just a blur to me, and I was just trying to make it, because I'm the first generation here, and I'm the oldest. So in my culture, the way I see it is, I gotta make it, and I have to take care of my sister and my family. It's just what I do, you know, what we do, and what I was taught. So I remember creating fraternities. I'm a founding father of Phi Kappa Psi, and I founded a fraternity of engineers just to collect 5 years of homeworks, 5 years of quizzes, 5 years of exams, because I understood that teachers were lazy. So they would take the same exams, change some things around, and I would be able to pass if I created this whole thing. So I remember getting tutored from my brothers, and it was, I didn't understand anything still, you know, but I
You
had
understood patterns and how to hack things. So you
Yep.
did understand something.
I did. And I remember doing the homeworks too. Every homework was 1% of your grade, and there was 10 homeworks, and you had to get in groups of 10 to 20 to do a homework. And there's 5 different classes. So when you would spend all your time doing one homework for a week, but every day a homework's due, and then every day there's a quiz in every different classes, and every quiz leads to 10% of your grade. So when I was doing the math, I was like, man, every time I fail, I drop a grade, and it's every day. So it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. Like, we were getting groups of like all guys just cry, you know, and it was intense. But later, you know, I've learned to work with people. I've learned to, as we were doing the homeworks, I used to go around asking, hey, which homework are you doing? We did this homework. Would you like to trade? because it took so much time. So I was the guy that got around and traded everyone's homework. And everyone always wanted to study, but as I was learning, and I'm like, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing anyways. I used to go around and just ask people, do you want to trade? I was that guy. It's like, everyone's like, are you crazy? Do you know them? No, I don't. But we're on the same boat and we're all gonna fail. And well, everyone knows that homework takes forever to do. And there's always like a genius kid in every group. I said, but there's no way everyone's doing all the homework. How about we just swap? And so
it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, on top of the fraternity, in the basement of the library, I had it was a network, you know, and I just went around and networked. And in a nutshell, you know, college was the hardest years of my life. And I remember getting caught for cheating.
You got caught?
Yep, I got caught. The last 5 minutes, you know, when you mess up for an exam, it's 5 pages for one question. It takes 5 pages to do. You mess up one thing, you're erasing 5 pages. And I remember I had a friend that helped me out, and he messed up one of the equations, and he had to erase 5 pages during the last 5 minutes. And this is very hard. This is something very hard that I was just like, holy crap, the whole thing's wrong. He's like, the whole thing, he's just erasing. And I ended up copying the last 5 minutes. I didn't get a chance to change the answers. So it was word for word, 5 pages, and I got caught. And I remember this is the worst teacher. He was gonna kick me out of college, and kick me out of all colleges. That's his goal. He hates cheating.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, do you know my reputation? I said, I heard about your reputation. You bring people to court.
Wow.
Yeah, he was serious. And
like a Pennsylvania court or a college?
I
like
don't
tribunal?
know. I don't know. I just know his reputation. He said
it's probably inside the college.
Well, he said, I'll trust me. He said, trust me, I've done it before. I'll make sure no college in the East Coast will ever accept you. He said, your only chance to go to the West Coast. And I straight up just told him, I said, man, why do you even make the exam so damn hard? You know, I told him the truth, and I told him that he didn't understand what it's like to be an immigrant. And I really just said what I felt, which was your whole thing was to find gifted students that you could research with. And what about all the people that are just barely passing? What about people with stories, people that have to take care of their families? I said, you don't care about them. You're probably one of those rich kids that was just gifted, and you have no idea what it's like. I said, if you kick me out, he said, I'm gonna kick you and your friend out. I said, can you kick me out, but not my friend? And he was like, no, he confessed. And I'm like, crap. So he said, and I just told him the whole story, and I was crying. It was just spilling out my heart. And afterwards, in short, he allowed us both to pass. He allowed us both to pass because I guess what I said was true about him, you know? And I graduated as a computer engineer. When most of my friends changed their majors, I never gave up. I tried to give up one time, then I found out my GPA was too low. I mean, of course it's too low. Why would I want to try to change my major if my GPA was high? It made no sense. It's almost like I was trapped, but there was only one option, is to make it. And that was the beginning part of my life that really built me up. Remember, I have a computer engineering background, and I'm an engineer. I have the ability to break things down and build it up. But at the time, I didn't know anything, and I was just failing. So I always thought that college taught me nothing. But now when I look back, it provided the environment for me to build myself, which was what I was good at, which was connecting with people. And graduating to me is just surviving life. You know, because life is hard. That was hard. If anything, college was harder for me because I had everything on the line. I felt like if I didn't pass, my life is over. That's the pressure I had on myself every day, you know, and my parents gave me all their money. So it was all in. So that was the basis. That was the foundation of, you know, my life. And after that, I came out the first year, and I always followed my uncle since I was 15. He owns a construction company. I used to do construction for him.
Right.
My first year, I remember I first graduated, I couldn't find a job. It was 2004. So it was, the whole market didn't have any job for engineers. I had to relocate, and I wasn't relocating. So I got into real estate. My uncle got me into it. And that was the funnest year in terms of just coming out, not knowing anything. Not like, remember, I'm a homeboy, homebody. I don't know what a mortgage. I didn't even know what real estate meant. I didn't even know what the words meant. I needed my uncle to tell me houses, like houses, buy houses. And I was like, oh, such a fancy name, And I didn't know anything. But in short, my first year, I believed in everything I did. I believed I could do anything. Maybe because most likely from that, what I've been through, it gave me that confidence, that belief in myself. And that first year, he did construction. I found properties, and I made over $1 million my first year.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
at the end of that year, I learned my greatest lesson. And that lesson was my uncle, he agreed to give me 50% because of our agreement. He backed out of his agreement. And he said, I don't remember such thing. And it's the first time in my life I got hit so hard because I respected my uncle. I loved him. And I didn't understand, but I saw that, well, my interpretation was that money made him evil. That's what I saw. Money made him evil. Like crap, man. And I was so in pain. I told my parents. I had everything in writing, by the way. Like I'm smart enough to get everything, all the LLC documents, all notarized as 50-50 partners. I'm a 50 partner in everything legally. I could just claim it, But my dad was like, yeah, we don't do that in the family. If your uncle said it's not true, then just give it to him. And I became a realtor too. I found a property, I staged it, I designed it, and I sold the property as a realtor. Sold it myself. And I found all the buyers myself. So I did it, I did it like, I don't know, 5 times, and every property I was netting around 100 grand. And so I started buying properties too, the hold properties, and my cash flows, I don't know, over 30-40% on my cash flow. I was doing things that is unheard of, and I had a mentor. I remember when I first started, how I got started was I stayed in the bookstore, which was the UPenn bookstore, which is now, I think, Barnes & Noble's.
Yeah.
And I stayed there and read 9 months. I stayed there and read for 9 months. And that was a big thing for me because I never read. Like, I don't read much. I know I graduated from college, but no, I don't read much. And I stayed and read for 9 months. I read the same book, How to Get Started in Real Estate. I read 20 of the same books. And then I started to see a pattern that they said the same thing. And I remember that.
What was the pattern?
The pattern was that it was kind of like a process. Everyone said the same steps, where to find a property, the county courthouse, how to get a loan, or build up your credit, and stuff like that, how to find the properties to how to sell. So it's like step by step. But at the time, my pattern wasn't like a clear pattern. My pattern was my questions, because I didn't understand what the book was saying. So I wrote the same questions over and over, such as, go to a county courthouse. My question was, what does a county courthouse look like?
Okay.
And oh yeah, get a mortgage. What is a mortgage? So the pattern was I had the same questions over and over, and I had no answers to these questions, by the way. It was, okay, I got questions, but these are the same questions. So the answer must be in the questions. So I just started working. And the first thing was, in my, naive mind, if you're looking for a county courthouse, what are you looking for? Well, the answer I had was, I had to look for a judge. Okay. So I didn't even know where this county courthouse was. And I went to City Hall on the Orange Line, and I was right in the middle of City Hall, And I knew that people, I looked at young at the time, a lot younger. I looked at like I was probably 15,
You
16.
still pretty much look the same as you did like 20 years ago, dude.
All right. So I look younger. All right. And so I
Yeah,
wore a
pretty much.
suit. I wore a suit so people would take me seriously. And I used to go around asking people that came up from the train station, excuse me, can you direct me to the judge? Excuse me, can you direct me to the judge? People was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Excuse me, can you direct me to the judge? I just kept going over and over. And then I saw a security guard. And I went up to the security guard. I said, excuse me, officer, because I don't know what to address the man is. I called him officer. I said, excuse me, officer, can you direct me to the judge? He said, sure, which one? I said, wow. That's a good question. And I said, the one that controls all the real estate in Philadelphia. He was like, what? What are you talking about? He said, what are you trying to do, kid? I said, I'm trying to find an abandoned property. He said, I can help you out with that. You just go, you don't see no judge or anything. You just go to the recorder's office room, I think 101 or something. And he's like, I'm like, what? I heard I was like, yeah. It was just exciting because I was like, I found it. I don't even know what it is, but I got the room. I went in the room. I went to the wrong room. And then I ended up going to a title room where stacks and stacks of paper where,
oh
and I was like, and then I just stood there. And then one of those, title people, that title clerks or whatever that are searching title, they were just like, can I help you? I said, yeah. How do I find the owner? He said, oh, that's what we do. And then later I was just like, is there a way I could do it myself? He said, well, you could probably find out, like where they live or where the taxes are being sent, but we go deeper. And he said, well, you're in the wrong room though. And I was like, but I'm confused. You said this is what you do. And he said, no, you go to the other room. Because I said recorders, this is the recorder's room or whatever. And she said, oh no, that's down the hall some more. I went down there. I remember like walking in, and then the ladies that worked there in the city looked at me, and she tapped her coworker, and they started laughing. And she's like, yes, can I help you? Because I looked so damn young.
You look like you were 12.
and then they were like smiling, and I got angry. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying, look, you know what? I'm trying to buy the whole block. She's like, oh, wow. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to talk to them. I felt angry. I was just offended, because I was
So they were
young.
condescending to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just walked around. And I saw this, I guess, yuppie kind of, he was just got a full beard, riding a bicycle with his tank top, and I was just like, what are you doing here? And he was like, oh, I actually rent a place, and there's an abandoned property across the street, and I'm trying to find the owner. And I was like, that's what I'm trying to do. Can you show me? And back in the days, the computers were all green screen, like everything was just green, like DOS,
Yeah.
And you just type in the address, and it tells you where the owner is. And wow, I was like, that's it? Dude, that's so cool. I was so excited. I typed in the address. I saw the address. I didn't know where it was, but I hurried up and go home so I can go on mapquest.com. Back then there was no Google, it was MapQuest. Yeah. And I was just like, yo, where is this? And I'm like, oh, wow, it's not too far from the property. Let me hurry up and just go there. I'm just gonna knock on the door and see if the guy's the owner. I remember driving up, 5 guys were crossing the street and then surrounded my car. Before I knew it, right on my windshield, coming up on my driver's side, there was a gun at my head. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I was trembling. I started trembling. And he tapping my windshield. And I rolled down, I mean, guns in front of me, I just rolled down the window. And then now the gun's touching my head, And he was like, what the hell? You know, he's like, what the F are you doing here? You're in the wrong neighborhood. And I was like, no, I'm not. And dude, it's crazy because the house, I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's the corner one right there. And I knew the guy's name. I said, no, I'm not. He said, what you say? I said, I'm not in the wrong neighborhood. I'm looking for, I remember the guy's name, Jason Long. I'm looking for Jason Long. He's like, what? You know Jason? I said, yeah, we're good friends. And he looked at me for a while. And he put his gun back, and back then everyone had those fluffy Nautica coats.
Yeah.
And then he put it back in, and he was like, come back around in 30. I was like, yo, it's gonna be quick, because I did not want to come back. I was scared as hell. My legs were trembling. I said, I just want to leave him something. I wrote a piece of paper. It says, please call me, and my phone number, and that's it. And around 5:30, someone called me. And in short, instead of going on details, but he wanted to sell it. He wanted to sell the property.
Where was it? What part of Philly?
Broad Street.
Broad and what?
Block of Broad. Broad
Where?
and Susquehanna. Broad
Broad
and
and
Susquehanna.
Susquehanna. So it's 2200 block.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Was it commercial building?
yeah, I started buying. My first year, I bought all mixed uses on Broad Street, and everything I bought was mixed use.
Wow.
Yeah, mixed use, like
And
multifamily.
that, back then, that wasn't really Temple University. Now it's all Temple University, right? For the most part.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So my uncle told me, he was like, yeah, this property is probably worth 120. He said, you should just go back and be a computer engineer, save up. I said, no, if I do that, I'm going to waste time. I want to do what I want to do now. I want to be an investor, you know?
Yeah.
I know it sounds, yeah, so it sounds crazy, but I didn't even know what an investor was until he told me.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, wow, you want to be an investor? You know what that is? No, but I know one thing, that guy on Atlantic City, I see his name everywhere. What's his name again? Donald Trump. I said, I see his name everywhere. If he can do it, I can do it. And it really, you know, there's like one of those moments that where it clicks, and especially when you have no idea how the life works. Donald Trump, David Tran, DT. If he could do it, I could do it.
Close enough.
That was it. That
Yeah.
was my moment. That was it. And then that year, you know what, looking back, that year I was like Donald Trump, because I made $1 million the first year.
Is that around the time we met?
No, you met.
Oh, let's just 04. Do we meet like 06? When did you start going to Jack Miller's seminars in Florida? Me, you, Jason.
I was like 05. That was, oh no, that was 05, 06. That was after my uncle, and I went back to school because I was just like, you know what, I don't know what to do. So let me just, like, I made $1 million not knowing anything, and my uncle didn't give me any of it. Right.
Wow.
He wrote me a check for $28,000. And when I did the math, I'm like, dude, that's less than 2% of what we net.
And what was his justification was, oh, I don't remember saying that.
I didn't say that. And you're greedy. You're greedy.
So he made you feel guilty and bad for the money that you made that he stole.
Yeah.
It's called gaslighting.
and then he said, you know how many realtors want to work with me? Like, what makes you different? And you don't even know anything. And he's like, I could find, like, you're a dime a dozen. I could find any of these people that could do this for me. And then he's like, you're greedy. He's like, you know what? Talk to your aunt. And my aunt is my mom's sister. My uncle is my dad's brother. So really close. It's like family. You know, they're married. So my aunt said I was greedy because, remember, they all came from money. They said I was like a little shark. You know, I'm asking, I didn't have any money involved. But for me, I was trying to explain, which I couldn't explain. I was like, I created equity for myself. I bought things so cheap. That's where the skill is. And he's like, your uncle did the construction. It was his money. You did nothing. You know? And shit, I didn't even get paid as a realtor. I didn't even get paid as much as a realtor. I became a realtor to find a deal, sell the property. Like, I felt so devalued. I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Those are the years. And you know, that as magical as my first year was, that first year was when emotionally I got crushed. I was worth nothing.
Yeah.
And I remember crying for nights, and looking back and understanding that those were the years that made me hate money. It created my story, and my self-worth, self-doubt. Yeah, it was like, wow, I believed my uncle. And then on top of that, like, I lost trust in everything. I didn't know, this is the person that I respect most of my life.
Wow.
And he was the most successful one. So I saw, like, I'm just like, wow, this sucks. And that took me onto the journey from learning Jack. And
so Jack Miller is our, well, God bless his soul. He passed away. Yeah. But we used to go to see a man named Jack Miller and another man named Pete Fortunato in the Tampa area, and go to learn from him. And he was one of these old school real estate investors that knew everything. He was the guru of the gurus, starting in the 1960s, I believe. A lot like David, he didn't know that he couldn't do it. So he just would go to the library, read a lot of dusty books about real estate, and put together deals on a piece of paper, would knock on doors. He would drive old beat up cars and wear a suit and just go knock on doors, mainly like in the Tampa, Clearwater area, and would be buying houses for like $10,000, $15,000, $5,000 in the 60s. Also in Nevada, same thing. And his goal every day was to leave early in the morning, start knocking on doors. And his goal was to buy one house a day. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. And if he was in the people's house till like 10 o'clock at night, he wouldn't leave until they signed the contract. And if they said, well, we'll think about it overnight, he would sometimes even sleep in the car in front of their house and knock on their house door at 7 in the morning. Said, did you sleep on it? Did you think about it? You want to sign the contract now?
I didn't know that. You know that.
Yeah, he was awesome. And
I didn't know that.
And he used to invite. Did you ever go to his house?
I never. No.
Okay, so for a lot of people that he saw come to the seminars more often, and this is like way before like the internet and stuff. When he used to get to know you a little bit, he would invite you over to his house with a group of people prior to the actual seminar starting. And back then, that was right around the time Robert Kiyosaki's book came out, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so, I was reading and I was very impacted by the book. Because actually, were you there the time that Robert Kiyosaki came to our real estate group in Philadelphia?
No.
So right before he was really famous, he was actually pushing that book. And I remember speaking to him, and he seemed kind of guarded, And what I said to him towards the end of it, at the end of the talk, I came up to, I said, the way you speak and the way you carry yourself and your presentation, have you ever heard of landmark education? He goes, no, I never heard of it before. He was lying because now he talks about it all the time. But when I asked Jack about him, he goes, yeah, I met that guy. I said, what do you think? He goes, he doesn't have enough stories. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're a real estate investor. If I asked you about a certain topic in real estate, couldn't you tell me like 5 to 10 stories of different things that happen around that? I said, yeah, absolutely. I could write an encyclopedia about just one topic alone. He goes, yeah, when I talked to him, he wasn't like that. He was guarded, kept things to himself. I said, okay. He goes, so I go, what do you think? He goes, I think he's just a salesman about real estate. He's not someone actually in the business the way you are, the way I am, So he was a treasure. I think about him every day. He was amazing. He was almost 80 years old and he could stand at the front of a room and he was like stream of consciousness for about 3 days, right?
2 or 3 days, yeah.
2 or 3 days, yeah. He would just talk. I'm like, unbelievable. It's genius.
I understood him a lot more than Peter. Peter would do the same
Oh,
thing. And Peter is all mathematical creativity. His stories are wild. And I was like, what was the point again? Oh man,
yeah. It was like listening to a philosophy professor, and you're like, what the hell? And he's still alive and he's still giving seminars at St. Pete. God bless him.
I called him, and he said he hasn't thrown one for a while, and they were supposed to be cruises, but they haven't
Yeah,
gotten a chance due to COVID. But yeah, if he does have one, I would like to go
I'll go
because
with him.
so yeah. But going back, like, I just wanted to share, like, you asked me like my beginning. I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty much the beginning,
yeah,
you know. But I also want to share that how important is your beginning. How you start kind of determines your destiny, right? And your journey. Um, because of my hard training, I have resilience and I'm unstoppable. But because of someone close to me, that whom I loved a lot, that put a whole blockage and delayed everything for me. I've after that, for some reason, every time I made money, I would give it away. I became like, I don't know, I became like a monk, you could say. Not per se like I used to meditate, but I used to go around just wander, explore life like a philosopher, and I have nothing. And understand and go out there and explore what having nothing is. Because I'm very curious, remember. Everyone's always afraid of not having money. Of course, I always had my parents to house me. I never got the full experience, but I would go out there and speak to homeless people, sit next to them, eat next to them, just to experience from the outside what they go through, because I wanted to understand what goes on in their mind that makes them who they are. And when I talk to them, a lot of them are pretty normal people.
very normal.
Yeah, and some of them, of course, were veterans, which I felt was a shame. Like, wow, like
Yeah,
it's like hearing that the country just abandoned them, and
yeah,
after they just served. So I felt, I just went around and hear people's stories
yeah,
and ask them, and just like a human being would, and that really shaped my life as well, because I was always trying to figure out why couldn't they do what I do and just make a lot of money,
yeah.
because everyone started the same, and when I heard their stories, I used to see, oh, I see, that makes sense of why you don't want to do that no more. And I realized that it's like PTSD, and
Trauma.
it's a fear. You call it fear, but it's imprinted in them, something that happened or someone told them something that they believed in. So for me, I can tell you from today that when my uncle said all those words to me, I believed it for the longest. And I had to go on a whole journey to learn about myself and undo, or another way of saying it is overwrite, my
Reprogram.
own, reprogram
Yeah,
my own beliefs. And because I've gone through all that, today I can say that, oh man, everything happened for me, not to me. Because what I'm able to do today, if I didn't go through what I went through, I would never be able to do what I do today. My relationship with my uncle, just in short, I believe in karma, and he had his karma. He took all the money and he went to China to invest in real estate in China. And
wow.
yeah, and he was looking at billion-dollar deals, and he had a lot of relationships. Something happened where he needed my help, and I went to China to meet these people, and I went for months, and I came to a conclusion that he was being scammed. And he was like, how do you see a scam? Everything we're meeting, like all these things. I said, no, these people are real. I said, but you're being scammed by your partner because things aren't adding up. And he would sit there and listen to me tell the story and retell it based off of how he saw it versus how I saw it. And he was like, holy shit. So he started hiring like private investigators and stuff to investigate, and found out I was right.
What was his partner doing? Like, how was he scamming him?
There's a lot of things. I mean, keeping the money. Remember, when you buy real estate and like out of seas, you have to partner with someone that lives there.
Yeah.
So
And
he was,
you're basically helpless if they screw you over. That happens in Thailand all the time. Yeah.
So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, he was stealing money every way he can. And all the relationships that were meeting people were real, but I also learned that it's very cutthroat. Like I learned how the culture was. I remember meeting like these president of the banks, and I remember giving, like, they used to ask me to give their children English names, you know. So I was going around naming people's kids, you know, and these are all like high, powerful officials too, and they love me, right? And here's an example, right? It was like an agricultural bank. There was a commerce bank, and I remember, like, I meet everyone the same. I'm just, like I said, I'm young looking. I remember the agricultural bank, first time I met the guy, and he held this posture, you know, like of importance. And he looked at me. He was like, "Come here, kid. Pour me a cup of tea." And I said, "No problem." Poured him a cup of tea. And then he drank it. He's like, "You know what? Usually I don't talk to kids your age, but you know, I like you." He said, "You know, I'll be, you know, I look at you like I look after you like a little brother." I said, "Okay, no problem." You know, I don't care. You know, honestly, I was just like, "All right, cool." You know, and I remember when I was there, we're in like a karaoke spot, right? And so we're in this little room, and my uncle went outside. So this is just me and him one-on-one. And I poured him a cup of tea, and he was sitting on the sofa. Next thing you know, the other guy, the other bank, I think it was Commerce Bank, or I don't know how, I met so many bank guys. He walked by. He knew where I was. Like, everyone knows everything. Like, they know where you are. They know where I'm. So he found me. See, I didn't know that, but I know that today. Like, everyone knows everything. China is very connected. The people, if you know someone, like, it's almost like you're always being spied on 24/7. Like, they know everything. You go to the bathroom, they would know. It's crazy. So he found me, and then I was like, "Holy crap, what you doing here?" For me, I didn't know. So I was like, "Yo, what you doing here?" And they're like, "David," you know, and bam, 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 we talk, we hug. And then he pulled me outside of the room. I was talking to him one-on-one because the other guy was still sitting there drinking tea. And he's like, "What are you talking to him about?" I said, I don't know. My uncle just told me to come here." He said, "Look, you know who he is?" I said, "No. He's my best friend since 2nd grade." I was like, "Wow, cool." He said, "I got him the job." Okay. He said, "So there's nothing he could do that I can't. There's no point working with him. Just come work with me." And I was like, "Didn't we just have this conversation? This is your 2nd grade best friend?" And he's cutting him out. It's just business. It's just business. It's cutthroat. And that's how I saw it. And I realized that, oh, wow, this is really scary. And then I was like, "Okay, no problem. I'll tell my uncle." Then he walks in the room with me. The other guy then sees me talking to him, and he calls him big brother. You know, he calls him big brother. And instantly, the guy that I was next to looked at him, and he looked at me, and he got straight on his knees and started crying. And he started saying, I'm so sorry" to me. He's like, "You're the one that named his son? I'm so sorry." And he's like, please, I didn't mean what I said." And I was like, wow, I mean, it's not even a big deal. Because, you know, he's remembering that he said, you know, he made me pour him a cup of tea, and now he's on his knees pouring me a cup of tea, apologizing for his actions a couple minutes ago when he didn't know who I was. I was like, this is really scary, dude. Like, why is this so serious? It's just, dude, it's just a cup of tea. And I mean, I pour I mean, it's not a big deal. I pour people shots all the time, you know? What's
Yeah.
the big deal? But yo, he was crying.
You know, it sounds like the very thing that you started off the interview by talking about is that you thought that when you were growing up, your life would look like one of these kung fu movies.
Yeah.
What you're
Oh
describing
yeah.
right there kind of sounds like some of those Shaolin kung fu movies where it's
I
a
didn't
whole
catch that.
different,
That's awesome.
right,
That's good awareness right there. I didn't
right,
realize
where
that.
it's like you know, we watch those movies and we like the action because the action, the punching, the kicking, and the
Yeah.
movement, we understand that, right? But then there's the parts that when they're subtitled or when they're translated into English, it's like something's missing, and we don't have the awareness of their culture and how they see relationships and the language that they're using and the nuance also. So like it sounds like what you were missing when you're walking into the situation is your awareness of what is actually happening. In other words, what you're perceiving as happening is very different than how they're seeing it. And they're also trying to figure you out because even though you might look like them, they know that you're an outsider. And I'm guessing that they were playing your uncle knowing he's an outsider. He's an outsider trying to play a very inside game. And that's what you were able to see through because you were what I call listening with your eyes and watching with your ears. Whereas he was just so focused on how much money am I going to make? Maybe, or something, or maybe he was in his ego, where you were coming in from the outside, being able to see the angles and how things work, which is your background in network engineering. You were seeing the machinery of the relationships.
Yeah.
The structure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very perceptive.
Yeah, and the reason he was bound down is because like in the culture, it's you know, usually when you're younger, it's like, you know, obviously he's older, he's a big brother, but he started calling me big brother because of status, you know. So I was there, I was one of the people that was doing big business there, and he didn't know who I was, and he treated me like a normal Chinese kid, and not knowing that I was the one that his big brother was talking about. And they were like raving about me because we had so much fun. And he was like, yo, these guys, this kid's awesome. And then also at the same time, that him messing that up can mess up his brother's business. So that's the business part you're talking about, you know? So it's a whole thing. It's a culture, it's the game they were playing. So I was just, you know, there's a lot of different things that made me realize that, but those are like those type of experiences. Watching my uncle lose all his money, and I saved him whatever was remaining at the time. He had some back, but it wasn't. He lost pretty much everything. And in short, his next 7 years, he worked till his hands bled. Like his knuckles, all his knuckles were all bleeding. Like he had to do hardcore construction, and he had to withhold his three children through college. They were all coming at the same time. Those are the years that really humbled him. And because I saw him go through that, I start to see the patterns of life, you know, like the karma that one goes through, like what I was saying. And I'm like, wow, this stuff is real. Like you do something. Karma to me, explain, is just an unlearned lesson, or something that keeps you where you are, doing the same thing. It's almost like a habit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like, oh, good thing come, good thing. Well, that does happen. If you do good things do come back to you. If you do bad things do come back to you. But for me, the way I see it more is I erase the good and the bad. And I just see it as, hey, if you enjoy that rough journey, then it'll come to you, you know, and this is how you do it. If you enjoy, like, you know, some people love drama. So when drama comes, is it bad? No, they love drama. They love drama. So that's why I'm very careful these days of what I'm watching, because I'm more mindful of it. And let's say I'm mindful of my emotions. So if I'm watching something like drama, like these reality TV shows, everything's a fight, everything. And let's say I'm intrigued by it, right? I'm like, oh, wow. Today I can say, oh, crap. I think I'm wishing something like this going to happen. And very shortly, I'll watch my friends at the club starting a fight. And now I'm in it.
You become a clearing for it consciously or unconsciously.
Right.
It's like when you watch a Rocky movie, you know, you come out of the theater and you're like, Rocky, you know, you want to throw some punches because you're so inspired, you know, and that could
Yeah,
go very badly for you.
or Fast and Furious for me.
Yeah.
That was a real thing. Every
Right.
one of my friends had fast cars. We're all racing right after. Now we're living it. So
Sure.
see, it's so impactful that our environment or the movies or the TV shows that we watch, because growing up, that was our programming.
Mhm. Absolutely. So what sort of things, I know what you don't watch now, but what sort of things do you watch? Do you
I still
participate in?
watch old kung fu movies to
Yeah,
remember to remember like the lessons and all these things that
sure.
happen. And I've also I found my own perspective on how to interpret it to neutralize my stories with it.
Hmm.
You know, so let's say I watch something evil and I'm like, yo, these people are backstabbers. Instead, I mean, of course you were backstabbed in the movie, but I would listen and try to figure out, why was this person backstabbing? Oh, because they're trying to survive. You know, I start watching these Viking, I don't know, I saw my wife watch like Game of Thrones. She watched and I was like, what the hell is this stuff about? You know, it's like I was just watching, like there's midgets having sex with his mother. I don't know. I'm like, what the hell is this crap? And people love it. And I'm like,
Super into it.
yeah. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
why are people into it? And I was like, wow, this stuff was real back then.
Yeah.
So if you look at this stuff and how people raided, raped, it was like Genghis Khan. It was all power driven. It was all ego.
Survival.
It was survival.
Yeah.
And so that's when I understood, oh, wow, I remember now. We're all primitive species. And that's how we evolved. Our history may not be glorious, you know, like Americans. Then I started seeing the world differently, like all these murders, like spies and a lot of, you know, crazy spy stories and how people tortured people. I remember like Rambo, you know, it's like, wow, this stuff is real.
Yeah.
And this is how we came and evolved. It wasn't so glorious, but it is what it is.
Well, one of the people that I've been learning a lot about is a man named John Dee and Edward Kelly, I believe. And so for those of you that aren't familiar with who John Dee is, he was a highly intelligent man that lived in England during the time of Queen Elizabeth. And he is the inspiration for Ian Fleming's 007, you know, the spy, 007, the world's most famous spy, MI5 or MI6. And the reason that he is the inspiration for that is he basically created, from what I understand, being a spy in England. But the most interesting part for me about that is he dabbled in the occult, and he created something called the Enochian language. Enochian means Enoch. Enoch was the grandfather of Noah, allegedly, right? And he patterned this language after Enoch, and he could speak to angels, and he had deeply occult powers, and he used some of those powers to spy on behalf of Queen Elizabeth, people in her court, because it's all a game, like you said, you know, it's all a game of perception. And one person might be saying something to your face when in fact they might be doing something completely different behind your back, and you really have no way of knowing besides using your intuition. And he was deeply connected to that, and he used the occult to spy and to keep his place in the court, because being in the court was a whole game unto itself, a game of strategy, a game of chess, you know. And he helped the crown. And I think he even came up with the term the British Empire. He helped Britain become an empire when it at that point in time, I don't think it really was. So you're not the only one.
What? Not the only one, what?
Well, I think you're quite perceptive,
Oh, okay.
especially when
Gotcha.
you were young. You know, you just maybe weren't aware of how aware you were in certain ways, you know.
So that being said, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
People always ask me, what am I doing today? I'm actually just showing people and teaching people what awareness is.
Mm.
And I believe that we all can do anything. It's just that we picked up what we picked up because of our circumstances and environment, and we hone a specific skill that would help us survive. And for me, I think that was awareness. And so we all have a superpower, you know, and it's a superpower that we decided and chose to work on. So if awareness is my thing and try to understand things, that's why intellectuals, like, you know, scientists, what are they doing? Like, what are they looking at? They're looking at things we can't even see and trying to figure out things in space that we can't see. There's nothing we could see. So if you think about how amazing we are as a species, it's like, we're amazing. And one of the things I just want to share with people and what I do today is I just want to share with people how they're amazing. And I help people go through some things to get unblocked, to help them make sense of their story, their life story. And I also believe that we chose, you know, kind of like, I would say that we chose to come here and experience something, but then at the same time, we also have the ability to unchoose it if during the journey we decide, yo, this ain't for me.
In what way? How do you mean that? Because it sounds like suicide, and we're not advocating for it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, how do you mean it?
What I mean by that, come here, son. Let me give my son a hug real fast before he goes to school.
Sure. Oh.
So what I mean by that is if you don't like the life that you're living, let's say I'm a computer engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the computer engineering life. I have the ability to change my life and become a real estate investor. That's a different life. Think about it.
Yeah.
I know today in the English language, it's called, oh, you change your profession. See, when we say you change your profession, it's nothing special. But if you went from being a yoga teacher to being a multimillionaire, and then you became a philanthropist, and then isn't that different lives? See, no one understands that they have the freedom. And this is what freedom is. Because when you're in freedom, it means that you're surrounded by everything. But because you have everything, it feels like nothing. One of the things I do is help people understand what to do with their freedom, what they can do, what options they have that they may not be aware of. You know, it's like, it's crazy for me to see, like, you know, everyone born every day with a new option to do whatever they want. So every day is a reincarnation. Why do you need to die to reincarnate? You could wake up tomorrow and say, oh, you know what? I want to do a podcast. Oh, now you're a podcaster.
Why not?
Living a new life.
Yeah.
Let me see what that's like. The next thing you know, you're just like, oh, you know what? I always wanted to, I don't know, do Toro. I want to own a lot of cars. Let's do it. Then you say, you know what? I want to be a painter, or I want to be a model. Isn't each one of these different lives?
Yeah.
But yet, you know, people get bored. They get bored because they don't they're not aware that they can try something different. You know, I
One
can
of my
just,
one of my favorite sayings, I'm sorry, is I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission. And I think that goes more for yourself than for anyone else. Like, can you actually allow, can you actually give yourself permission to be everything that God made you to be? Can you actually be the author of your own life, but can you give yourself permission to be that? Will you
so
allow for that?
just to like my perspective, I'm just
Yeah.
sharing authentically. Like, I mean, I don't know anything about religion much, but I hear that God made us in his image. So,
Allegedly.
so doesn't that mean that we're gods?
Many, yeah.
Yeah.
So why can't we create our own life?
I don't know. Why can't we?
Because we stop ourselves from doing it because we're not aware of it. And we've been doing it our whole lives. I just named
Sure.
so many things that you've already created. You created that whole person. You know, if I wanted to be a realtor or a lawyer, I wear a suit. Suddenly, I'm a different person. You know what I mean? I'm driving the same like BMW. I'm living in a certain community. And then one day I chose to be a homeless monk or something. And then now I'm wearing rags and I'm panhandling or I'm just praying for people. You do anything you want. That's, you know, and what I've learned is that when you can do anything you want, it's hard to make decisions. People don't know what to do. I during COVID, I had so many friends call me and they were like, Dave, what the hell is going on, man? I'm so used to my daily structure routine. And they don't even know how, they're just like, I don't even know why I'm calling you, but you're the only person I know that's been doing nothing your whole life. Like you know how to handle like
You had
not
to do
having
nothing. How to be with nothing.
yeah. You're the only one to know how to handle with no schedule. I don't know how you wake up not knowing what you're gonna do. Like what's the purpose? I'm like, live life. I look at life as a blessing. I can do anything I want. And I can go as deep as I want. And if I don't like it on the surface, I'm like, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. Nah, I don't want to do it. And I change it. And then when you find the thing you love, it's like, wow, I like this. I like this, how this feels. I like how it impacts people. And then you're like, oh, this is my purpose. This is my mission, you know? And then you also, if you develop more self-awareness, you can see, oh, where do I fit? You know, I've been trying to fit in. I'm pretty sure like everyone in the world, trying to fit in my whole life. I didn't fit in.
You mean you're weird like me?
Right.
Dave,
Grace,
how did
too.
you find people? How did you help people find what they love?
Well, I start off with asking them a question. When you were a child, when you were young, before all the things that happened to you,
Yeah.
you know, when all the possibilities are available to you, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What did that look like? Can you tell me?
I can tell you.
Oh,
But not many
yeah.
people have the same awareness.
Go ahead.
And I feel like at the end of the day, everyone with desire issues, they desire to feel love and to feel free, to feel joyous.
I can answer that question too. Clearly, I wanted to be Bugs Bunny. I used to love the old Bugs Bunny cartoons because he would walk into situations, whether it was Elmer Fudd or Yosemite Sam, and they were always coming with this aggression. They had a gun and they wanted to kill him, and he was just like a trickster, you know. And he would take them out of their element, and he would pull them into his world, where, you know, he would tie the gun in a knot, and then the gun couldn't shoot, and they would chase him, and they would go crazy trying to do something to like this ethereal character. And I just thought it was hysterical, you know. they were so stuck in I am Elmer Fudd. Remember that? I am Elmer Fudd. I own a mansion and a yacht. You guys don't know what I'm talking about, but someone stuck in their method, and here was Bugs Bunny. He was like this character that could morph into anything and take you out of your comfort zone, and it was hysterical.
So look, I just want to share something with you, right? Like it's the same thing you share with me. First, we have something that we imagine of how it should be. That's our expectations of what we want. Like you wanted to be Bugs Bunny, like perfectly.
Sure.
So I'll tell you a little bit story, and then I'll tell you about you. So my son, last during Christmas, the one that passed, he wanted a panda bear. And on Christmas Day, it was very interesting because I bought clothes, and in my box of clothes, they gave you like free stickers. It was panda stickers. His mom bought him a panda bank. I bought him, I think I bought him a panda t-shirt or something like that. And so after he got his gifts, he was really angry. He said, and I was like, what's wrong? You know, I'm getting pissed off. I'm like, we got you all this stuff and you're mad? We got you a new freaking gaming computer, everything. He said, yeah, I got everything, but I didn't get my panda.
Expectations.
I said, what? You didn't get your panda?
Oh.
He said, Santa Claus is not real. I said, son, Santa Claus is just an idea, you know, but Santa Claus, I said, the way Daddy sees it is Santa Claus is just a representation of God giving you gifts in life. He just dressed in a way that's cozy and more accepted. But we don't know what God looks like. So, you know, he looks like this person, that anything good is through God. And I said, you said that you didn't get a panda bear. Let me ask you a question, son. If God gave you a panda bear, what will he be eating? He said, I said, what do panda bears eat? He said, bamboo.
Yeah.
I said, do you see us have any bamboo? And he was like, we can grow it, Dad. It's not that hard. And I said, very good answer. And while it's already here and the bamboo takes time to grow, if he doesn't have any food, what is he going to eat? He's like, I don't know.
You.
I said, you idiot. And he just looked at me. He was like, I said, you understand why God didn't give you panda bear stickers, panda bear shirt, panda bear bank? Son, learn to be grateful, because what you don't understand is that you don't know the consequences of what you're asking. Because what you're asking, he could have gave it to you in the most physical possible way that it won't disrupt your life. So you say you liked it, Bugs Bunny, right? Talk about you now. So what I'm trying to say is that there's physical laws of what you can do and what it would look like. For you to morph into a bunny, and it doesn't allow, it's not, this physical laws just don't allow. There's laws in the physical realm.
Yeah.
But if you think about your laugh, it's like Bugs Bunny.
Oh yeah.
If you think about how you operate too, I remember how you said to me, you know, I love when people hate me or anything, but they still got to work with me.
I don't remember saying that, but okay.
I know, I remember. I remember you always said, I meet these shrewd, rich people, and then you know what? They always need me. And you said, I love that. Doesn't it sound like how, no matter what, everyone's got to bend their will to Bugs Bunny and his plan?
Interesting.
That's just an example. But it's just we don't see it because it's not what we expect it to look like. And you just said to me, Dave, it sounds like you watch those Kung Fu movies and this guy's on his knees holding tea. It sounds like Kung Fu. I didn't see that. You're 100% correct. I lived it and I didn't even see it. So let me ask you a question. How many times have you asked for something, got it, and didn't realize?
Yeah, because you think it's got to look a certain way, but God will give it to you in a way you might not expect it.
And according to the laws. Like, look, I'll give you another example. I'm pretty sure we all want to fly. I'm pretty sure the Wright brothers want to fly. And instantly, when you're thinking flying, you know what, man? My brain says I have to have feathers and it has to be light like a feather. But what's flying today is a piece of metal. An airplane is made out of freaking metal. It's heavy. How does that make sense? We should be light like a feather. But what came out, what they created was a piece of metal that flies in the air.
Right. It's all a context. And like, so now we have the thought that the only way that you can fly is getting in a helicopter and getting on an airplane, when our ancestors, depending on what you believe, some could levitate, some could fly. I was talking to one of the fathers of where my son goes to train, and without naming names, he confided in me. He's Vietnamese. He went on vacation with his family, and he went to a hotel, a resort with a whole bunch of his family. He was about 8 years old, and he had the creepy feeling about going into this hotel. And later that night, while they were sleeping in 2 queen-size beds, he's awoken at like 3 o'clock in the morning to hearing them, like it sounded like someone was struggling. So he opened his eyes and he looked at his family, and they all had this kind of sleep paralysis where their eyes were open and they couldn't move. And he saw like they were trying to kind of reach for him. He's like, why are they trapping? What's going on? And he looked down and he was levitating approximately 3 feet off the bed. And they were trying to grab him and they couldn't move. And I said, well, how long were you levitating for? He said, I think about 5 minutes, and I couldn't move either. I said, wow, that's interesting. So his family was also staying at the adjoining room next door. And next morning, as soon as everybody came out of the room, they came up to him and said, hey, they came up to them and said, hey, did something weird happen last night? And so both sides of the family were having the same experience all at the same time. And then later on, they found out that hotel was built over some kind of cemetery, which showed a lot of disrespect to the people that had passed on. So it had this kind of odd energy.
Dave, I'm going to take a time out for a second. Okay.
Sure.
Give me a minute.
So, Grace, I'm going to keep all these and find someone to edit them. Okay. It shouldn't be very hard. We could probably do it on Fiverr.
Okay.
All right.
How
So
long
I'm going to request that you send all this footage to Grace in the Philippines so she can make the request.
Okay.
And find someone.
I can do that.
I got to show you some of the. I'll tell you later. I forgot to tell you.
Sure.
Yeah.
What time are we done here? How long do we have?
We should be like wrapping it up in like next 5 minutes.
Yep.
What's your day look like?
I have to work out after here. Then
You have to? What happens if you don't?
I get to.
You get to, thank you.
I get to work out after here. I have a call at 12, and then we have the podcast at 5.
Oh yeah, well we have the call at 12. Yeah.
I'm back. So
it's cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize it's like an hour and a half already.
I know, right? Well, we're not going to go much longer. And don't worry, we're gonna have this edited. So far, it's been fire, man. Really great. You have such a unique, very different, very patient, very methodical perspective on life that you've developed since you were very young. And it makes me wonder, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of, were you always this analytical, or did you picking being a network engineer also
Computer
influence,
engineer. Computer
I'm sorry,
engineer.
computer engineer, influence your perspectives, or is it a little bit of both? Or
I mean, to answer that question, I think everything came at once. The chicken and the egg, it's mutual arising. You know, so it's kind of like when I grow, you grow. When you grow, I grow. What came first? Well, physically, you're older, so you did. But when we met, the moment that we met, that interaction, we both start growing back and forth. So who
Yeah.
came first? Simultaneous, you know, mutual.
I don't
Just like-
remember meeting you for the first time. Do you remember meeting me for the first time? 'Cause I don't, my memory's kind of shot from COVID.
I remember you used to, it was Jason Centeno.
Yeah.
That brought me to your office in the Northeast.
Uh-huh.
And he just said, yeah, come to our real estate group. And I was like, okay. And that's the first time I met you.
Was that the mastermind?
I don't
That
know
I
if you
used
had,
to do it in the mornings?
I don't remember.
Okay, I think it was. That's interesting. My wife was talking to me about that today. She said, you know how many people came out of that and started businesses? And I was like, I don't remember. She had to remind me of it. That's awesome. I'm glad I could contribute.
Everything we did, it's like I said, it impacted, you know, so I'm just more conscious of what I'm doing today because I realize that I'm impacting. It's like I've done just, you know, we're short on time, got a lot of stories of how one thing trickles into a whole domino effect and affects people's lives. Because I start seeing things like that, I start being more mindful. Mindful is like I watch my first step. You know, my first step, it's like my first domino will create a whole domino effect and create the destiny of what I'm doing. So now today I'm like, man, you know, I don't feel like I need to move as much. And I've accepted everyone as like my mentor, and I'm just a student of life.
Beautiful.
You know, so because of that, I believe that it allows me to be the teacher that I always needed, because going back to not understanding my whole life, not comprehending.
Yeah.
That left me very empty. And today I'm that person. I became the person, you know, be like be the change that you want to see.
Change in the world. Yeah.
Those weren't his exact words, but that's the message that was shared. But I'm just being what I lacked, you know, like the friendships that I couldn't find and I didn't have. I chose to be that for others. The education that I didn't have, I chose to be that for others. And the emptiness and the love that I was yearning for, I chose to be that for others. And when I look back, I can say that everything I don't have was meant for me to give.
Beautiful. The other day, I was listening to someone talking about all the trauma they had in their past and how now as an adult, through different modalities, they're learning to self-parent. In other words, they're learning to be the parent they didn't have. If I'm listening to you correctly, you're learning to be the teacher and the friend and the mentor that you never had. And also probably from being a father, you're also probably a very mindful father and very present to the words that you use and how you listen to your children.
So yes, I am, but I just want to make that very clear. I'm still human, you know. I don't want to be so strict, because sometimes, like, the way I found what I found in me was due to imperfection, right?
Yeah.
Because trusting that the process was the perfection is what got me here.
Yeah.
So why am I gonna try to restrict my son because I'm aware of these things? I'm gonna introduce it to him, but I'm gonna allow him to learn. I'm gonna allow him to mess up. And I'm always gonna joke about it too, no matter how he messes up, because look at me. Like, I'm just like, think about this, right? Today, people come to me and ask me, how do I connect and work with people? And at one point in time, where did that skill come from? I was the dumbest one. Well, not dumb, but like I didn't understand school and stuff. I was the one that was, people viewed like, oh, Dave, just this guy, man, he just copies, he's dumb or whatever. But today, all the ones that excelled at that specific thing, they didn't excel at working together with others. So everyone's good at survival these days. We're trained to survive, survive, survive. No one knows how to collaborate. And guess what? I'm that guy. You know, and so it's just thinking back, it's like, wow, if I was smarter and I was more like, you know, like I was good at doing everything myself, then I wouldn't know how to work with people.
Mhm.
It's interesting how things really work, you know?
Well, in Judaism, they say learning Torah, which is our scripture. It's about learning to marry your head with your heart. I think what we're seeing a lot, especially with men specifically, because I can speak as a man, we get in our heads. And then the moment that we have to use our heart, it's like a weaker muscle. You know, it's almost like people you see that you're about to go to the gym, right? Don't you ever see guys that all they do is work their upper body? And they have this huge upper body, but these skinny legs. It's kind of like that, you know, it's balancing your head and your heart, you know, and your intuition, right? And we're a lot of times as men, we're told, don't cry, don't show emotion. And the only acceptable emotion for us a lot of times is like anger and frustration. And that's really not going to get you anywhere. And I think that's part of what we're dealing with in today's culture.
So that's
what it's just a learning curve.
That's what I teach people too, how to have balance between mind, body, spirit. You know, these things people say, oh, balance, you know, mind, body, spirit needs to be in alignment. What does that mean? Well, it's really experiential.
It is.
And the only way to understand it is go through the experience.
Right. And the other thing that you said is you allow your children to struggle. I totally agree.
I wouldn't say struggle. I would say learn.
Well, right. But the learning is all, the struggle is part of that too, because that's where they find themselves, they find their niche, they find their expression of, you know, why they came here. They didn't come here to be our children. They came here to be an expression of the divine and who they really are, and figure that out for themselves.
So the reason I say that I didn't say struggle and I say learn is because I don't believe that the struggle is real.
Okay, say more.
So when you say struggle, whether you are aware of it or not, you're creating a framework of struggle that your children are going to go through because you chose it.
Interesting. I never looked at it that way. Thank you.
So if they want to learn, I just give them what they want to learn.
Then let them choose.
That's right.
And interpret.
That's right. And I always, but I represent happiness, joy, you know, and I'm like, they'll look at me like, your dad's weird, man. You know, he's always happy. That's me, you know, and but I just want to be the example of what he could be. So he always remember that he has a choice, and that's the freedom that we all have. And so I'm not saying being happy is the solution. You know, I feel like understanding all emotions are great. Angry, sad, everything is a gift. You know, if you never tasted bitterness, you would never understand sweetness.
Right.
It's true.
So it's all an experience. That's how I look at it. I don't look at it, oh, don't cry. No, cry, let it out. How does it feel after you cry? It feels good. Good.
Yeah.
Dave, what is one advice that you will tell people who are trying to find that balance and also who are people who are looking to find that awareness and to, tap into their freedom to choose?
I would tell you how to start. It's hard to, that's like a very big question, and there's steps, like you can't graduate and learn everything from college in one day.
You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, as much as we want to, it's like, hey, give me the answer. What I can tell you is start asking people what they like and dislike about you.
Mm.
And learn to hear without any emotion what they dislike about you, because those are the parts that you never seen about yourself.
Mm.
And of course, sometimes you hear things they like about you, you'd be, wow, you like that about me? And you're like, I never even thought it was a good thing. I helped one of my students smile. And I said he had a beautiful smile. And he was, you think so? I said, I know so. It's amazing. It's radiant. And he's like, man, I always thought I had a good smile, but I don't smile. Why? Because, man, I feel like a punk.
Yeah.
And he's around thugs. He's around thugs.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't. So I said, is that why you look hard all the time? You gotta do what you gotta do to survive. You can't be no punk. I said, well, you know what? If you're surrounded by all thugs, be the only punk then. Just smile. Because you're protected anyways. And it's just like, when you think about it, he's like, you know what? He thought about it, and eventually he started smiling. Now he can't stop smiling. That's me, man. All I do is smile. And it's just like, that's what I mean by one little thing can change your whole output. And because of that smile, he's gotten so much more business. He's got so much, he's impacted other people, brought smiles onto other. So that's what I believe. One simple thing can change a life and save a life.
Beautiful. So Dave, are you open to any of our listeners that would like to reach out to you, possibly hire you as a coach or a consultant?
I'll be honest with you. It's something that I always wanted to do. I just don't know. I don't know how to charge people because I've always done things for free.
Okay.
Because
Well,
I believed that everything should be free, but I also learned something different recently, that when people pay, they pay attention.
yes.
And
Very true.
I tested it for 10 years, I know. And because I refused to believe that. And the more they pay, the more they pay attention. And I'm like, how is that possible? And it's not more or less, I would say it's proportional to what they make that makes them feel like it's valuable. So I am open to it. I specifically, I would say if I could select, I want people that want to impact their communities. I want people that want to go out there and help people. And I've helped a lot of people. You talk about suicide, talk about even homicide. I saved a lot of people from that kind of stuff. I saved marriages. I saved, I understand. It's just one of the things I've learned is my friend always called me like, you could predict everything, you could do everything. You're like Nostradamus. But remember though, focus on your family first. Because although he could help everyone else out, he didn't see his family dying because he wasn't focused there. So whatever I'm doing, I have to make sure that I'm mindful that I take care of my family first, because I never understood that whole theory with the airplane thing. You got to put the air mask on yourself first before you put on your children. I was like, no, I put it on my children. He's the future. He's this. I want to put it on my child. I love him. And now I understand that if the plane crashed and I'm not surviving, he would just die anyways. There's a high chance, not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But or he's going through some struggles because I'm not around. So I've learned to take care of myself first, because I'm saying this because I had the whole mindset of money is evil.
Yes.
And because of that, I let it all go. I let all my money go. Man,
Right.
I used to pay extra taxes. And I've given a lot. And today I understand that, you know what, if I spent more time developing myself, I'm the example that people are mimicking and copying. And that's the part I didn't understand before, that I'm the impact. I'm the solution. and that if I go, there's going to be one less person out there helping out the world. And I've learned that the society today, they aspire to become the successes, like, you know, whatever they see on TV. If I don't look like that, you don't need to look like that. But if you want the mass, that's how they understand it. So if you don't look like the part that they expect you to be, they're not going to listen. Most people are not deep. Everyone's shallow, surface. Instagram. You know what I mean? It's Instagram. It's like whatever you see, you just believe. No one understands. Like, you know, someone will look at your age, and I've been that for a long time. You asked me, have I always been this wise? In a way, for my age, I've always been wise for my age.
Yeah, that's
But no one will ever see it because they would just see my age. So
do you have any contact information, like an email address or a phone number you'd like to provide to the listeners?
I mean,
A website?
I can tell you that the way I do things today is, because my wife said it's the way people understand, is do things through real estate. Right? I teach people how to invest. And through investing, I end up, I guess, coaching or joint venturing. And that's my way of reciprocation. And and then because real estate is, when I do a lot of personal development, people, there's no metrics to see, like, oh, after that conversation with Dave, I'm making $50,000 more.
It's a tangible result. Whereas
Correct.
a lot of the things that you teach in coaching take place at the realm of being. And so because it's a being thing, it's harder to measure.
That's right. I teach internal development, but I need something physical to show you that internal development manifested into something physical. So real estate's the vehicle I chose.
Beautiful.
For now, you know. So realestateasian@gmail.com.
Awesome.
REALestateASIAN@gmail.com.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, if you're a real estate person or want to get into it, we talk real estate, and then you know, through that, I can help you become what you need to become, you know, to live your best life.
Beautiful. I am beyond happy. Thank you so much for coming on. Not like you weren't already an amazing person and someone that I love very much, but I'm so happy that you've become the person that you are today. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm beyond happy, beyond happy.
Thank you.
I acknowledge you, Dave, for who you are for the world and for who you are, for the impact that you're making in people's lives. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Welcome.
All right. So that's the end of our podcast. And I want to thank all the listeners for all the feedback that we've been getting online and to my cell phone number. And without you, we are nothing. But then again, we are nothing without you as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the funny papers. Thank you.
Bye.